Superman can lift a submarine, stop a bullet with his eyelid, fly faster than the planet spins. And somehow, when men are asked which hero they'd want to be, not admire, be, the answer is almost never Superman. It's a man with no powers, no armor that can't be pierced, a man who, more than once, has lost, been beaten, broken bones on camera, in front of everyone. This isn't really about strength. It's about something men aren't supposed to say out loud. The easy explanation is that Batman is relatable because he's human. No powers, just money and grit. That's true, but it's not the real answer. Plenty of human characters exist in fiction. Nobody's making essays about why men resonate with the guy from a heist movie. The real pull isn't the absence of powers, it's the presence of a wound, and what he chose to do with it. Bruce Wayne didn't become Batman because he trained hard. He became Batman because he watched his parents die in front of him as a child, and instead of collapsing under it, he converted that grief into control, into a system, into a body and a mind built, piece by piece, to make sure he was never powerless again. That's the actual mechanism, not he's human. It's his strength was manufactured out of pain, on purpose. Superman's ethos is close to that old country radio idea. Most people are good. Clark Kent grew up decent because he was raised decent, powered by a sun that made him nearly invincible, guided by a moral compass that was basically installed at birth. He's not wrong. He's just unearned. His goodness isn't a choice under pressure. It's closer to a factory setting. Even in his rare, depowered arcs, his identity never wavers, because his sense of self was never in question. He always knew exactly who he was. Batman's entire existence is proof that identity can shatter, and that someone can rebuild it anyway, brick by brick, at 3 a.m. alone, for decades. For a lot of men, especially ones who don't feel naturally gifted, naturally confident, naturally chosen, Superman isn't aspirational. He's unreachable. Batman is the guy who says, you don't have to be born special. You have to decide to become dangerous. Here's the part that doesn't get said in the comment sections. The U.S. Surgeon General has formally described loneliness as a public health crisis, and the data on young men in particular tells an ugly story. Fewer close friendships, less frequent contact with the people they do have, more isolation than any generation on record according to Gallup's tracking. Batman doesn't have a team he built out of friendship. He has Alfred, who serves him. He has allies he keeps at a careful distance. His isolation isn't punished by the story. It's rewarded. He's more effective alone, colder alone, in control alone. That's the quiet, dangerous part of the appeal. For a man already isolated, Batman doesn't say, isolation is a problem to fix. He says, isolation is a weapon, if you're disciplined enough to use it. It's not that men want to be alone. It's that when you already are, a mythology that turns loneliness into strength is a hell of a lot more comforting than one that tells you to go be vulnerable with people you don't have. Now, the obvious objection, Batman isn't actually alone. He has Robin, Nightwing, Batgirl, Oracle, an entire family built out of orphans and cast-offs he brought into his orbit. But look at the shape of those relationships. He doesn't let people in. He recruits them. Every member of the Bat family enters through the same door. Usefulness to the mission. Alfred serves. Robin is trained. Oracle runs intelligence. Even the people closest to him relate to him through function, through hierarchy, through the job, rarely through the kind of unguarded, reciprocal closeness that actually cures loneliness. It's a family shaped like an organization, a chain of command wearing the language of kinship. And that's arguably the most honest part of the whole mythology, because it mirrors exactly how a lot of isolated men do eventually build connection, through shared purpose, through utility, through being useful to something bigger than themselves, rather than through vulnerability, rather than just being known. Batman doesn't confide in Robin. He directs him, It's not nothing. It's real structure, real loyalty, real relationship. But it's connection built on his terms, on his timeline, with him always in control at the center, which is exactly the kind of connection that's easiest for a man who's spent his life converting pain into control to actually accept. Psychologists who study superhero identification, Travis Langley's work is the clearest example, point out that audiences don't just admire heroes, they use them as models for who they could become. And Batman is, arguably, fiction's most extreme monument to self-control. The training, the schedule, the refusal to rest, the total suppression of impulse in favor of the mission. For men who feel adrift, who feel like they're behind, undisciplined, without a clear direction, Batman isn't just a character. He's a proof of concept. Proof that competence can be built from nothing but repetition and refusal to quit. No origin story luck required. And then there's the other half of his life. Galas, penthouses, cars that cost more than most people's homes, women on his arm at every event, none of whom stay. It's tempting to read that as just the reward, the billionaire fantasy layered on top of the vigilante fantasy. But look closer. The luxury isn't indulgence, it's camouflage. Bruce Wayne is the mask that lets Batman exist in daylight, a performance of control so total that no one looks past it to ask what's actually underneath. Which raises the question worth sitting with. How much of what looks like success, the watch, the car, the room you walk into, is actually a demonstration of who you are, and how much of it is armor for a wound you've never let anyone see? Maybe the reason Batman feels more human isn't that he lacks superpowers. It's that his entire existence is proof that competence can't fill the whole grief left behind. No matter how disciplined, how wealthy, how in control a man becomes, he never stops being Batman, because if he stopped, even for a night, he'd have to feel the thing he spent his whole life converting into strength. That's not a superhero story. That's a warning most men never think to read as one.